What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to sort of bring you along on the spiritual journey that I am on myself. This is going to be somewhere between a story time and just sort of like an explanation of what a thing is sort of video. This weird grey area that I don't really know how to describe. But essentially I will be sort of, I don't know the words. But basically this is what my my initiation looked like into my coven, which, if we're being completely honest, is actually my coven. It's currently just a coven of one. So I've been, I wouldn't identify as a Wicca, like as a Wiccan per se, but the general basis of their religions, when they like the Sabbaths that they celebrate, those sorts of things, I do follow that, and then the basis of Wicca itself is predominantly Celtic. There are some Norse bits in there as well, so you can have Wiccas that will sort of worship Norse gods instead of Celtic gods. We do know a lot more about the Norse gods because they actually wrote stuff down. But I am myself Celtic in origin, so is my name. I know for a fact that my mum's grandmother, I couldn't tell you on which side of her particular family, but she is herself a Scottish woman, so my great grandmother is like 100%. I am Scottish? Irish. So I'm 1/8 Irish. I do know that my nan and pop on my dad's side, this is the nan that I did my storytime video about yesterday, which I know is getting uploaded today. There's a lot being uploaded. But that video, so that grandparent is my paternal grandmother. So my paternal grandmother and my paternal grandfather, I do know what clans they come from in Ireland. If you're interested, it's Clan Gordon and Clan George. In fact, my nan's maiden name was George, so she's like directly descended. So I am of quite heavy Celtic descent, British descent. So British, in fact, that, and we will discuss this at a later date as well, and by a later date I mean in about 10, that one of my ancestors actually came out on the First Fleet for having stolen a, I think it was silver boiler pot. And quick side note to any of my old classmates from drama in high school that may potentially end up coming across this, I know that that's probably not what you remember me saying, because it's not what I had said in class. At that time, I knew it was a pot of some kind and said the first kind of pot that came to mind. I don't actually think anyone in England was making chamber pots out of silver. I know that's what I said. I apologize if you feel lied to, although it did make an excellent story, and it was quite a laugh that we had, so you're welcome. Lying was not my intention there though. It was a boiler pot. It was a boiler pot, and it was just my faulty memory showing itself. For anyone else, yeah, that would have been even better if it had been a chamber pot. But no, we're not that full of shit. So yeah, so that's how quintessentially British I am, which probably explains why I'm so attracted to British goth girls. But hey, have you seen British goth girls? Anyway, not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about my coven. So I will sort of, I guess, just tell you the name of my coven, what its particular focus is. I will also be giving you guys what a general initiation ceremony would look like. If you were interested in joining, I am sort of self-teaching, and so being the sole member of my coven, I am its high priest. It's not a thing that I'm running around being like, oh yeah, no, I'm the high priest of Coven of One, but just by default, I am also its lowest ranking member at the same time. It's how that works. So yeah, I will divulge all of my personal coven's details sort of towards the end. We're going to focus on the initiation ceremony to begin with. Now to do that, I'm going to open these blinds, which are actually closed, to help keep the lighting in here relatively even, just because I feel like if I don't, people are going to take this as being a darker thing than it actually is. Wicca is not evil. Oh, that I didn't get to see, but I'm sure that brightened things up quite dramatically. And now you can tell that the light on my face is a little bit more one-sided because of the direction of where the light's coming from. And that's just on physics. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. So we are on learnreligions.com, just so that I have some semblance of a script, because otherwise this would end up just being a half hour of me bumbling my way through it. Paraphrasing for the most part here, they do have a sample initiation ritual that you can follow yourself if you don't know any actual high priests that can help initiate you. This could be a cool little bonding thing that you guys all do together. Maybe one of you is more interested than the others. You would have to have your friends initiate you first, so that you can then be the high priest to initiate them, because generally speaking, only the high priests can lead initiations, and any of the other ones as well. So obviously, they've got that word here. Obviously, while it serves as a useful template for your particular coven, you may need to change things. For example, if your group honours a particular god or goddess, you may wish to include their names in the ceremony. Also, if there are parts of this rite that simply don't apply to your coven's practices or beliefs, you eliminate them as necessary. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all, this is a very personalised thing. And I did watch a video, excuse me, Okay, I think we're good. No, we're gonna not the Rona. Cool. yeah, I watched the video as well, and you can simply just follow the sample as it goes if you are new to this. Obviously, as it says there, if you don't believe in something, don't put it in. But otherwise, you can basically follow this from start to finish. But the one thing you will need to personalize, and by personalize I mean write in its entirety on your own, are your particular vows. Now, if you guys are, if you are doing this with your friends, just as a sort of a, you know, we're all part of this group now, we will always have each other, like if it's just sort of that sort of a show of friendship sort of thing, which is completely fine, maybe writing your vows together would be kind of cool. And again, another level to that bonding thing, which is what your particular coven would be about anyway. So that's cool. That's it's cool to do. Yeah. So as I said before, this is designed to be led by a high priest or priestess who is assisted by an already initiated member of the group, referred to as the guide. The person being initiated is referred to for this ritual as the seeker. Kind of feels like we're playing Quidditch now, isn't it? Many covens choose to have their seekers wait in a room outside the initiation area. If you opt to do this, it's not necessary, but if you do choose to do this, you may want to light a fire or create an altar space where seekers may meditate or make offerings to the gods of your tradition. It will be the job of the guide to escort the seeker from this waiting area to the initiation space. For this particular rite, upon arrival at the coven stead, the seeker should give the guide his or her magical tools so they can be consecrated by the high priest or high priestess. Now, those tools are the ones that are the suits of cards in tarot. So they are a cup, a pentacle, a knife, not a sword, a little knife known as an athame, and a wand. And these days, most wands are generally the little like crystal obelisks that you can buy at your, like, you know, they're usually found in like trinket stores and those sorts of things, but they're the little obelisks. They're usually about this long, and yeah, it can just, and all of these things can be just like, oh, I thought that this thing was pretty, and I thought this was pretty, and I thought this was pretty. They don't have to be like, oh yeah, no, this speaks to me of, you know, like you know, like grabbing a cup and it's like, this speaks to me of, like, you know, water and emotions and you know, like it doesn't, it can just be because you thought it was pretty. It's yours. But yeah, so they would arrive, they would give those over to be consecrated, and then they would be escorted by the guide to the waiting area, where if you participate in this sort of thing, they would be asked to remove their mundane clothing, such as what I'm wearing at the moment. And then cover themselves in a black sheet. If you're not comfortable with ritual nudity, and we are going to, for the sake of this, assume that you're not, the seeker may also wear their ritual robe and be blindfolded instead. The idea here is that coming into it, you are essentially in the dark, and that once you've been initiated, you will be allowed to see the light again. Plus, while you're blindfolded, if you're not already having been initiated, if you're still just waiting there, the dark is an excellent place to meditate, because there's no distractions of like light or anything. If blindfold sort of covers your ears a bit as well, it might muffle sound as well, so you sort of get away from that as well. It's not complete sensory deprivation. You can still feel things, you can still smell things, so you're not gonna like start tripping out like sensory deprivation tanks make you, but yeah, it does help to cut down the amount of distractions available. However, having said that, meditating while practicing the good old grounding technique of 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. They are all like going through that sort of step by step during a meditation can also be kind of relaxing as well. So yeah, but we'll cover the grounding technique in a different video if that's a thing that you'd be interested in. The general idea behind the blindfold is that they're not supposed to see themselves in their like within the ritual nudity version of this, they're not supposed to get their ritual robes until after they've been initiated. Which, if you want to just make it like, oh yeah, no, we're all getting, friendship bracelets instead, you just don't give, you just don't show them their particular bracelet until they've been initiated. That's entirely up to you. Like, you don't have to go all out. It can literally just be the one person who's going to lead the ceremony doing it one at a time, and you can individualize every single person's bracelet, or you might get all, you might all get jackets and have their spirit names embroidered on the back, or whatever it might be. So in the initiation area, the high priest or high priestess should create a sacred space in the manner of your tradition. If this involves casting a circle, you can do that. I will make another video at a later date about how to cast a circle. It's very easy to do. The guide should bring in each seeker's magical tools to consecrate. Once all items have been consecrated by the high priest, they will signal the guide to lead the seeker or the first seeker into the initiation area, because generally speaking, seekers should be brought in individually, one at a time, and the initiation area should be far enough away so that seekers who are waiting cannot hear what's taking place. Again, with the blindfold, it's supposed to symbolize you going in the dark. You're not supposed to have some little heads up vision of the future sort of thing before you get initiated. And it's like one of the only sort of strict things about this. Everything else is just sort of free flow, pick at your own place. But initiation rituals are sacred. It's essentially the same as a Christian baptism or confirmation ceremony. Cool. So as the guide and seeker approach, they will pause before entering the initiation area. The high priest will then, and they've even got a script here. So the high priest will then say, "Who approaches this sacred space?" The guide will reply, "I bring you one who wishes to know the mysteries of this covenant and who wishes to honor the god and goddess." You may be able to, if your particular coven doesn't, if we're going to go with the coven of friends that I sort of keep coming back to, that might be, and who wishes to honor the bonds of friendship instead. Like, it doesn't have to be the god and goddess. If you're, like I said, if you're just doing this as like a group of friends so that you can sort of like cement a thing, and that as long as you wear this, this bracelet or this jacket or whatever, then our bonds of friendship will weather any storm sort of thing. And you can put that in this, the high priest will then say, "Seeker, by what name will you be known within this sacred circle?" The seeker would then respond with their magical name, what did I say it was? Start with an S. Anyway, I think it's start with an S. Anyway, it's essentially, I know that you can also be called a craft name. maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I know I'm thinking of a small word. Anyway, whatever. But essentially it's, if you've already got a nickname with your friends, you can just choose to be known as that. And then once you've been initiated, the people in your coven can really only refer to you as that. It's not a legally binding thing, like you're not actually getting your name changed, your name stays the same. But this is how you can sort of, if you don't like your name and you want to be known as something different, this is your chance to be like, you people can only call me by this sort of a thing, because then within the coven, that is your name, as far as the people within that coven are concerned. Because essentially, for anyone else joining an actual coven where it's predominantly strangers, you would assume, this is the first time you're actually introducing yourself. So everyone else that's their name. And if anyone calls you something different, they're like, no, his name or her name or their name is this. This is how they introduce themselves to me, so this is how I know them. High Priestess will then respond something in the manner of, the gods have deemed you worthy, please enter the sacred circle and kneel in their presence. Once the seekers enter the initiation room, there's not much else for the guide to do but wait. After the last seeker has entered the initiation room, the guide should quietly enter the room as well and take their place in the circle. If I was going to be doing this with a larger group of people, and already had other people within my coven as well, the space I would set up to do this, I would have it be that the circle is just sort of, other people sort of lining the wall, and as it wraps around the door that the guide comes through, it sort of is the only space not taken up by a member, so that when the guide stops in the door to let the seeker enter, they are essentially, without entering the room, they are essentially closing off that circle as well, is how I would do it. That way the circle is complete for everyone without the guide having to continuously cut themselves out of the circle, which is a thing that you have to do as well. So that you're not breaking the circle. The high priest would then, or priestess would then say, Seeker, before you are initiated as a dedicant, are you ready to be purified? Seeker should then respond with yes, and then they will be ritually purified with earth, air, water, and fire. Now, this is generally speaking some salt or some sand, or maybe a little bit of some fine soil, sort of like sprinkled on their head, some incense, some smoke or whatever. You could use a smudging stick to do that as well. A candle would be sort of lit and maybe placed in front of them. I know for a fact that confirmation ceremonies do a similar thing with the candle. You end up getting a candle for your confirmation. So the candle that you would use in this ritual then becomes the dedicant's, the seeker's candle after they leave. So you're essentially giving them a gift as well. And in this case, you could see the candle representing that fifth element within the pentagram. So where their knife represents air, their pentacle represents earth, their wand represents fire, their cup represents water, and now their candle could represent spirit, because it is the thing that was given to them by their coven, which is kind of cool. And then you will obviously douse them with some consecrated water, essentially baptizing them as well. So I don't want to hear any of this devil worship in my coven, because literally 3 of these things are used in, other than the salt and the sand, the incense what do you think frankincense and myrrh are? The candle, as I just said, and then consecrated water from a baptism. This is 3 out of 4 things already here are done within established Abrahamic religion. Specifically here, obviously, Christianity. A high priestess would then say, by joining this covenant, you become part of a greater spiritual family. As such, you're part of an endless circle of kinship and hospitality. Hail ye gods and goddesses, hail to kinsman and clan, and to the ancestors who watch over us, and to those who may follow. He before you kneels, and then they would repeat the person's craft name, the seeker, soon to be a sworn part of this coven. They would then turn to the seeker and say, Seeker, the mysteries of the gods are many. We can never hope to learn them all, but we can indeed follow them on our journey through this life and the next. As a dedicant, you will learn to grow and evolve every day. You will seek new knowledge and attain it in direct proportion to your efforts. Let the gods and the ancient ones guide you on your travels. Are you willing to uphold the values and principles of this coven? Seeker would then respond, I am. High priestess would then say, you are prepared, Seeker, to be born anew, to begin this day a brand new journey as part of your new spiritual family and as a child of the gods. Sorry, are you prepared? I think I said you are. Seeker would respond yes. Then rise, and again would insert name here, and emerge from the womb of darkness and be welcomed into the light and love of the gods. You are no longer a mere seeker, but a dedicant of this coven. And at this time, the dedicant then emerges from the coverings and is covered in his or her consecrated ritual robe, or it's just the blindfold is removed. And honestly, I would probably go with the blindfold method, just personally. Or else this is the time to give them whatever you're going to be the symbol for your coven, whether that's the bracelets or a necklace with a pendant on it of a particular kind or what have you. This would be the time to present that. And in the case where it's a robe, you would say this robe represents your role as a dedicant. Obviously, if it's a bracelet, then this bracelet represents your role as a dedicant, or this pendant represents your role as a dedicant, whatever it might be. But it represents your role as a dedicant within the coven. It marks you before the gods as one who wishes to follow their path. And at this time, the high priestess should present the newly initiated dedicant with his or her consecrated magical tools. I give you these tools and bid you use them wisely and always in accordance with the mandates and guidelines of our tradition. High priestess or high priest would then kiss the dedicant, generally on their forehead, and then you would welcome them to your new family, may be blessed by the gods. At a conclusion of the ritual, if you wish, a high priestess may give the dedicant a certificate of initiation. After the dedicant is initiated, they should take their place in the circle with the other members of the group. When the entire group has been initiated formally into the coven and the ritual, they salute to the gods and goddesses of your tradition, and you may wish to follow things up with a cakes and ale ceremony, prayers, or a guided meditation session. Which, look, if this ends up being what you do, and you do follow it up with a cakes and ale ceremony, how is that any different from people on a Sunday morning after the church service meeting up, generally within the church grounds as well, for a cup of coffee and a little bit of a social catch up with other members of that particular, you know what I mean? Like, but a cakes and ale ceremony, yes please. Guided meditation session, what could also be a thing that you might do. Prayers, like, this really isn't any different to any other religion that's out there. So yeah. Now, more specifically on mine, now that we've gotten through the actual initiation, I need to put this on charge. Give me 2 seconds. Charger cord's all the way down there. But that's okay. I don't need that anymore. So mine is more of a connecting to my roots sort of a thing. So for me personally, I've always been interested in like mythology. Astrology's always interested me, and most of the constellations, particularly the ones that are in like star signs and stuff, which is also a big part of my personal beliefs, are named after Greek mythological creatures. So a basic understanding of like the backstories behind those star signs, the constellations and stuff, of which I only take the Ptolemaic 48 constellations into account. There are now 88 constellations. Some of them include things like boiler pots, which they would not have had in ancient Greece when most of them were named. So I take the Ptolemaic 48. It does mean that a quarter of them sit in our zodiac sign, with every however often we also get a Ophiuchus as well. One of the first signs, one of the first constellations I can always find in the sky when I look up at night, particularly at the moment, is Orion, and he's based on a Greek myth as well. So having a basic understanding of where they fit in is a part of my coven, just so that you have that sort of background understanding of what it is you're actually reading when you look at the stars and look into like horoscopes and stuff, understanding the different methods of like divinations, whether that's tarot cards, whether that is astrology, whether it's, and I'm getting into other things like rune stones, and scrying and that sort of stuff, palm reading is another one of them. Understanding those sorts of things is another part of it. And really it's just sort of a journey of self, like where do you come from? There are no specific gods, although I personally generally invoke the Celtic ones. Again, that's my particular past. If someone else was leading so last year my girlfriend that I had, my girlfriend of 4 months last year, was from Sweden. Sweden's in Scandinavia. Scandinavians generally is where the Norse and the Vikings came from. So she had been leading a ritual. She could have invoked Norse gods if she chose to, and that would have been completely fine. That would still have been within the mandates of my coven. I just particularly generally invoke the Celtic gods because they are the ones that I have, like ancestry to, if you want to sort of look at it like that. So gods are not really a major thing. If you wanted to invoke Greek gods, I'd be happy with that. Egyptian ones, go for it. I may take issue with Roman gods, but that's a personal thing. I just don't like Rome. They were culture thieves for the most part, and then once they became a Christian empire, that's when we started to sort of see it go from being like the Roman Empire into like the Christian Crusades, as we got into more medieval times. And also, generally speaking, the Roman Empire was largely at power during, major parts of the setup of Christianity, particularly. I'm not so sure about the other Abrahamic religions, but I do know specifically Christianity is quite heavily generally got Roman soldiers appearing as like the bad guys against the people of God, sort of a thing. And I mean, fair enough, they did feed Christians to lions. But yeah, so no particular gods. It's more just sort of a discovery of self, understanding of self. If we were to put sort of any sort of figure as like the things that we sort of pray to or meditate on or whatever, it would be your ancestors. So everyone's meditation session, even though it might be guided, the actual things that you would be thinking about during your own private meditation, even within a guided meditation session within my coven, would be different. So not everyone's going to be thinking about that one singular deity or pantheon or whatever. They'll be thinking about their own personal ancestors. I think that's about it as far as my mandate is concerned. I'm not super strict on it, you know. It's not like forcing you to be something you're not. It's actually, its mandate is explicitly be yourself. Know yourself, you know, and like recognize where you came from and honor that. Because if you can't learn from the past, you can't hope to move into the future. I think the only other thing I would need to tell you guys is the name of my coven. There is a bit of a backstory. So I do know I'm going to be giving you guys a craft name video in a couple of months. So I might save the name of my my coven for then as well. Just because I know we're getting a little bit on in time. So I will save that for then. If you want to find out what my coven is called, maybe you'd be interested in joining as well. That'd be cool for that to be an online thing as well. But if you would be interested in that, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to ring that bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. And until next time, guys, keep your head screwed on.